among the stars. Let me see what's
There's room at the top, but that doesn't mean you have to pay top dollar to get there. For decades, Dassault Falcon jets have drawn on fighter jet DNA to create the most versatile, best engineered executive aircraft in the world. Falcon jets can do what others can't, flying into hundreds of different short runways worldwide with a legendary capability that sets them apart at the very top of the market. To date, the Falcon 7X stands as the ultimate expression of this heritage. A large cabin, ultra long-range aircraft that will still be flying proudly 40 or 50 years from now. Step inside and you'll find a cabin crafted for true global travel. Over 6 feet tall, nearly 8 feet wide, with 3 distinct living zones and a private aft sky suite, complete with an ensuite lavatory. The aircraft features 2 lavatories, a full galley, a luggage compartment that's accessible during flight, with refined leathers, polished woodwork, and whisper-quiet comfort that make the Falcon 7X the definition of airborne luxury. And the price tag, nearly $70 million factory new. But here's the question. What if you don't need Shanghai to Las Vegas range? And what if you don't want to spend $60 to $70 million, but you still want the same cabin size, the same performance and capabilities, and the same prestige? Ladies and gentlemen, the Falcon 900. With the identical cross-section as the Falcon 7X, taller and wider than a Gulfstream, the Falcon 900EX, 900B, and 900C deliver that same grand flat floor cabin experience. And when the timing is right, opportunity presents itself. Every 12 years, Falcons undergo a major airframe overhaul called a 2C and landing gear inspection. This is the perfect moment to install a fresh new interior, a new paint job, and to ensure that the jet is fully modernized for its next chapter. This aircraft is a special opportunity. A 1988 Falcon 900B with only 2 careful owners in its lineage, freshly completed 2C and landing gear overhaul, fully refurbished interior with that brand new Falcon 7X style interior, advanced avionics including Fans 1A, CPDLC, WAS LPV for worldwide operations, and a gleaming new paint job awaiting your personal stripes. This jet flies nonstop from New York to London, seating 14 in absolute comfort, and it is for all intents and purposes a brand new plane. The asking price, $6 million. Yes, there are cheaper Falcon 900s out there, but not with this pedigree, not with this timing, and not with this level of investment just done now. At 10 cents on the dollar compared to a brand new 7X, this is the stairway to the top. And the timing couldn't be better. Opportunities like this don't sit on the market long, and once they're gone, they're gone. If you ever imagined owning a true, large cabin executive business jet with global range, a fresh interior, your own striping, and the pedigree of the world's most respected executive business jet, this is the time to step in. At $6 million, this Falcon 900B delivers the luxury and performance, safety, and reliability of a brand new $70 million jet. And if you're wondering about the age, don't just take my word for it. Listen to this powerful segment recorded with industry leader Mike Mitera, Director of Operations and owner of Chicago Jet Group, who explains why a properly maintained 30-year-old Falcon is every bit as safe as something factory fresh. Mike, why is it safe to fly on a 35-year-old jet?
Well, that question is really directly related to the manufacturer of the airplane. Not all aircraft are manufactured. They're manufactured to a minimum standard of safety and performance, but some of these aircraft are built with much more longevity in mind, such as the Falcons have no life limit on any of the airframe components, the wings, tail, empennage, any of the critical surfaces of the construction, whereas with Gulfstreams and other aircraft, there's a life limit where you get to a certain point, you have to replace the wings. due to the fatigue factor that comes with age and with flight landings and flight time on the aircraft. You don't find that on the Dassault product with the Falcon aircraft.
Why is that?
They're really overbuilt is the best way to state it, is that they're overbuilt. I mean, you talked about the factor of having 3 engines, so that means you have 3 hydraulic pumps or a dual hydraulic system, whereas some of the other airplanes, such as Bombardier and other airplanes, they have a single hydraulic system that is supplied by 2 engines. And if you have a hydraulic failure, which you don't have any backup for that one system, if you lose fluid or pump failures, you have 2 pumps running one off of each engine running one system. On some of the aircraft out there, such as the Cessnas, the Citations, and some of those airplanes that have one hydraulic system pressurized by 2 pumps, one off of each engine, whereas on the Falcon 50 you have 2 hydraulic systems that are redundant on the flight controls and the critical systems on the airplane. So each flight control has what they call a dual double barrel actuator that can be supplied by either the number 1 or number 2 hydraulic system. And the number 1 system, for example, on the Falcon 50 runs pressure to that system from the number 1 engine and the number 2 engine on one system. And then the other backup actuator on that same flight control is actually pressurized by the number 3 engine or a standby pump. So they have 2 hydraulic systems. Each system is pressurized by 2 separate pumps. And then the event that you have a total hydraulic failure, that you have no hydraulic fluid in the airplane whatsoever, or you lose all those pumps, which the chances are so small, you even have mechanical reversion redundancy that the airplane can still be flown because all the flight controls have direct solid push-pull tubes, and it's not cable driven. These are mechanical aluminum tubes, and this goes back to that fighter technology that Dassault built into the Mirage fighters, that they wanted to be able to get those airplanes home so that they could save the airplane. And that technology was carried over to the fighter. That fighter technology was carried over to the 50 and the 900. That's just some of the redundancy. When we talk about hydraulics and the engines, the number of engines on the airplane, 3 engines versus 2, and pressurization, it has a backup where you're pressurizing the aircraft from all 3 engines. And then, of course, the AP is only used on the ground, but not in flight.
Has there ever been a Falcon crash other than pilot error?
No. No, not due to mechanical issues. There has not been. It's always pilot is doing something that they should not be doing, that's not recommended, or improper training of the pilots. The airplane itself is so redundantly safe. We take the perspective that preventive maintenance is always the best policy. Catch it before it becomes a problem, and that's twofold. Not only the safety aspect, which is priority 1, is the safety aspect, but the efficiency of the operation, the cost of the operation. It's a lot easier to catch something ahead of time with preventive maintenance, and that's what we do. Is we'll treat these almost like a race car, where we're pouring over the airplane on a regular basis with post-flight, pre-flight by skilled mechanics, that we look these airplanes over and look for problems that could be a bigger problem later and address it while it's still manageable, where we can take care of the problem before it becomes a big problem. Meaning, if you let that tire go and you blow a tire, you could run the risk of the tire coming apart and then damaging the wing, damaging the flap, part of it going into the engine. Whereas if you change the tire early and not push the limitations of the maintenance and say, well, it still has 10 more landings on it, we can squeeze a little bit more out of it. That's not our concept here. We want to take advantage of the opportunity when we see there's a problem and address it immediately, so we don't have a bigger problem later that we have to deal with.
How do we evaluate and inspect planes coming into our program?
It's not a concern of the airframe or the wiring in the airplane. If the airplane has been maintained properly over the years, that is the key to it, is finding an airplane that has had good maintenance and it was maintained correctly, and making the investment in the avionics. The interior and the paint are cosmetic issues that can be resolved simply. The investment in the avionics and having a good airplane with good bones, as they say, good maintenance background, good pedigree, those are the things that I focus on when we go after an airplane for our new customers. You gotta start with good bones, you gotta have a good airplane, a good airframe start. Then you talk avionics to keep it into the category that meets the modern expectations of ATC and other mandates that are ahead of us.
Aren't the avionics on these jets outdated? How safe is it to fly?
Well, when you mention the fact that there's no life limit on the airframe, the really only limiting factor you've got with the airplane is the avionics, because technology changes, and we experience this with the electronics, the consumer electronics that we are, exposed to every day of our lives, where every year there's a new phone or there's a new gadget electronically that you can buy that improves your life. Same way with aircraft, but it's a slower process to gain certification for safety reasons. And in that process, the only thing that really lags with the Falcon 50 and the Falcon 900 is the avionics. And when you walk up those stairs, if you have an airplane with a brand new paint job and new interiors, the only way that you're going to really be able to discern that it's an older aircraft is by looking in the cockpit at the avionics. And that's something that can easily be remedied now with solutions that we provide through cockpit upgrades and modernization of new equipment that can be installed in the airplane to keep them not only compliant for regulation and mandates, but to add safety into the cockpit with the newer avionics that have more capability. We saw that and started developing the solutions, partnering with Universal Avionics, because they provide a top-notch solution that provide more capability for less money than the competitors such as Honeywell and Collins. And for that reason, we decided to go with the best equipment available, and that was Universal Avionics. We've worked very hard to incorporate upgrade solutions for the Falcon 50 and the Falcon 900, that we've actually developed a new cockpit to replace older legacy flight displays that are no longer being supported by Honeywell, particularly in the Falcon 900. And we've come up with a very, very cost-effective and attractive cockpit upgrade that can be done in steps without breaking the bank. As the airspace becomes increasingly busy and people experience ground stops for weather or for congested airspace due to weather issues, the FAA and other entities such as ICAO are trying to create more airspace because there are more airplanes flying. So the protected airspace that used to be 4 miles on each side of an airplane when they fly, for example, is now narrowed down to 1 mile on each side of the airplane. So you need more accurate navigation equipment, more modern technology to meet those standards and requirements to put more airplanes in the preferred airspace at the altitudes, and getting airplanes in and out of airport for arrivals and departures has changed drastically over the last 10 years, and there's no relief for that in sight that I can see from the FAA. So the need to mandate these upgrades is part of the FAA's long-term next-gen program to modernize the aircraft that are flying in the airspace domestically and outside in the oceanic airspace. And that can only be done through avionics upgrades and improvements. So really, if you invest the money to upgrade the avionics in a Falcon 50 or a Falcon 900, you got an airplane with no limit on the airframe that can serve you safely and efficiently for the next 20 years. All these things coming together in a combination with new avionics makes for a safer, more efficient use of the aircraft. And when you can make a investment in an older Falcon 50 or an older Falcon 900 that has no life limit on the airframe, you've got a really attractive position with a very, very reliable airplane, and some upgrades to the avionics makes it an entirely different category of airplane to be operating.
My name is Justin Sullivan, CEO of Ajax Jets, and I am a Falcon jet enthusiast. Like Southwest Airlines, our pilots, maintenance, parts teams, and operational capabilities are all aligned on one platform, Dassault Falcon jets, because of the safety, reliability, utility, and value of those aircraft. When you own a jet in our charter management program, you gain an air force with the capability to fly you one way anywhere on our floating fleet of Falcons. A charter jet like this prints money. As an owner, you get a nice tax benefit, and you never have to worry about flying around peak days again. This can be your aircraft for the next 20 years. Private air travel is a critical business and lifestyle tool, and perhaps it's your single biggest discretionary expense. After all, flying 50 hours a year on one of these jets will cost over $700,000 a year. Many people that I know are making important life decisions right now because above all else, you want to feel safe. And smart people look at this as an investment in safe passage for their family with a self-liquidating business model. If you're interested in stepping into a big balling Falcon heavy jet, or perhaps something a bit smaller, I've got relevant ideas and good opportunities that you never knew existed. Call me, Justin Sullivan, or email me directly to start the conversation. You'll be glad you did.